It was another slow evening at the diner where Joanna had been working for 5 years. Nestled on the outskirts of the city, the place attracted mostly regulars, truck drivers, office workers, and the occasional group of teenagers looking for cheap coffee and fries. Joanna had memorized every creak in the floorboards, every flicker of the neon sign outside that read "Open 24 hours." Her life felt as static as that sign, reliable but dim. Tonight, she was covering for a coworker. The clock ticked past 10 p.m., and the diner was nearly empty, save for a lone man nursing a cup of coffee in the corner booth. Joanna wiped down the counter, counting the minutes until closing time. That's when the door swung open, and a burst of laughter filled the room. 5 strangers entered, 3 men and 2 women, their energy palpable. They were dressed casually, but their charisma made them seem out of place in the modest diner. The tallest man, with sandy blonde hair and a confident grin, approached the counter. "Got room for 5?" he asked, his voice warm and easy. Joanna gestured to an empty booth, feeling a jolt of curiosity. The group slid in, filling the space with their animated chatter. Joanna couldn't help but eavesdrop as she took their orders. Their laughter was infectious, their connection magnetic. When she brought their food, one of the women, a redhead with sharp green eyes, asked Joanna her name. "Joanna," she replied, suddenly self-conscious. "You should join us when your shift is over," the woman said, flashing a smile. Joanna hesitated but found herself nodding. The group stayed until Joanna's shift ended, lingering over milkshakes and fries. As she hung up her apron, the sandy-haired man, Jake, as she'd learned, leaned against the counter. "We're heading to a bar downtown." "You coming?" he asked. Joanna hesitated. She barely knew these people, but something about their spontaneity was intoxicating. "All right," she said, surprising even herself. The bar was a far cry from the quiet diner. Neon lights bathed the room in hues of blue and red, and music pulsed through the air. Joanna found herself laughing at their jokes, sipping a cocktail she didn't remember ordering. Jake was attentive but not overbearing, his charm understated. Conversations flowed effortlessly, touching on everything from travel to childhood memories. For the first time in years, Joanna felt seen, as if she weren't just a fixture in someone else's routine. Hours passed in a blur of laughter and drinks. Joanna learned that the group had met at different stages of their lives: college, work, mutual friends, but their bond was undeniable. They teased each other mercilessly, but with an undercurrent of genuine affection. "What about you, Joanna?" Jake asked, leaning closer. "What do you do when you're not running the best diner in town?" Joanna chuckled, deflecting the question with a joke about her dull life. But Jake didn't let her off the hook. "Come on," he said. "There's got to be more to you than that." His words lingered in her mind as the group decided to move the night to someone's apartment. Joanna hesitated again, but felt a pull she couldn't resist. The apartment was cozy, filled with mismatched furniture and an array of eclectic artwork. Joanna found herself on a plush couch, a glass of wine in hand. The atmosphere shifted, becoming more intimate. The conversations turned personal, delving into fears, dreams, and regrets. "Life's too short to play it safe," one of the women said. "Sometimes you just have to take what you want." Joanna wasn't sure if it was the wine or the way Jake's knee brushed against hers, but she felt a surge of boldness. As the night wore on, barriers dissolved. Light touches turned into something more deliberate. Joanna felt herself letting go of the constraints she'd built around her life. The night unfolded like a dream, every moment leaving a deeper imprint on Joanna. The laughter that once echoed across the room softened, replaced by murmured conversations and stolen glances. Jake sat beside her, his presence magnetic. He wasn't pushy, but the chemistry between them was undeniable. As the group's energy ebbed and flowed, Joanna noticed how naturally she fit into their dynamic. One of the women, Amber, leaned over and whispered, "You're glowing tonight. Like you've finally found your spark." Joanna smiled but didn't respond. How could she explain what she felt, without sounding foolish? Jake reached for her hand, his touch light yet firm. He guided her to a quieter corner of the apartment, away from the others. "You don't do this often, do you?" he asked, his tone curious. Joanna shook her head, unsure how much to reveal. "No, but something about tonight feels right." Jake smiled. Sometimes, you just have to follow the moment. The room seemed to blur around them. Joanna didn't think about the consequences, only the heat of Jake's gaze and the way his lips brushed hers. It was a kiss that awakened something dormant within her. She didn't pull away. The rest of the group seemed to understand the shift. They gave Joanna and Jake space, their laughter and conversations fading into the background. For the first time in years, Joanna felt untethered from expectations and obligations. She felt free. The night continued with quiet intimacy and raw emotion. Joanna wasn't just connecting with Jake, but with herself, rediscovering the parts she'd buried under routine and self-doubt. The world outside didn't exist, only this moment mattered. The first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains as Joanna stirred awake. The apartment was quiet now, the remnants of the night scattered around, empty glasses, a forgotten blanket, and the faint scent of wine. Jake was still asleep beside her, his face relaxed, free of the confidence he carried the night before. Joanna slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. She gathered her things and stepped into the cool morning air. The city was calm, its usual hustle subdued in the early hours. She walked barefoot for a while, her shoes dangling in one hand. Her mind replayed the night, the laughter, the closeness, the feeling of being truly alive. It wasn't just about Jake or the group, it was about her. She'd broken free from the monotony that had suffocated her for years. Reaching her apartment, Joanna paused before unlocking the door. She glanced at her reflection in the glass panel. Her hair was tousled, her lipstick smudged, but her eyes, they sparkled with something new. Confidence. Hope. She stepped inside, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The quiet of her apartment was comforting, a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the night. Joanna sank onto her couch and stared at the ceiling, a soft smile playing on her lips. This wasn't the end of her story, she realized. It was the beginning. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in years, she was excited to find out. She'd discovered a part of herself she thought was lost, and she wasn't about to let it go. Joanna closed her eyes, letting the memories of the night wash over her. The sun climbed higher in the sky, heralding a new day. And for Joanna, it truly was a new dawn,